Oh, I'm really depressed.
Me too.
Really? Why are you depressed?
I'm just fed up with all these new games. I want some of that more old school retro stuff.
Like old Nintendo and stuff?
Like older than your mom.
No, your mum.
Sorry lads, couldn't hear you talking about a couple of video games.
We were talking about video games, yes. Do you have then? He's demonstrating he has video games.
Do you want to just...
Are they retro video games?
Come on into the shop, guys.
Let's follow
check
him
out
to the video games.
Welcome to Eminem Games.
Oh wow, look at the signs. These demonstrate the range on offer that are video games. I didn't know this was here. Did you know this was here before?
They have games.
They have video entertainment games. What is it called?
Eminem Games.
Oh my god, they have more games. Shenmue. I like that game. So what is this place? It looks absolutely amazing. You have
games.
Eminem Games. You have some video games, yes?
No.
Oh, are you joking?
Games.
Hi, I'm Trev.
And I'm Al.
Welcome to our new show,
Console Shock. So over the course of this series, we're going to be showing you a lot of different games and stuff. We're here in Eminem Games in Croydon. So fantastic retro gaming shop.
Yeah, there's not many retro gaming shops around these days.
No, they're pretty much an endangered species right now.
Exactly, and these guys have pretty much everything. We're going to talk about games, we're going to reminisce about retro games, pretty much every console that ever came out.
Pretty much,
that we know stuff about.
And the thing is, we're not a review show. We aren't a review show, we're here as more of a reminiscent show, so we want you guys to respond in the comments, tell us what you remember about this stuff as well. And the great thing is, over the course of this series, everything that we show you is for sale here.
You can buy it.
Yeah, so you don't have to go hunt for it. If you want it, then just come down here. So especially if you're in the London area, then this is the perfect place to be.
And there's not really anywhere else to go apart from Eminem Games, is there?
Pretty much no.
There are no other retailers, just come here.
No, and we're not talking emulation here, we're talking the real deal as well, so
what we're going to do for this very first episode, we're actually going to give you a tour of the store. You may have seen some of the store already with the videos that Eminem Games have done themselves before now. We're going to go through each cabinet.
And we're also then going to go and speak to the owners, Stu and Dan, so we're going to find out a little bit more about the history and why we're here.
I'm going to pick out some games that we have good memories of and talk about them a little bit more.
So come join us. Okay, so here's the guys themselves. This is Stu and Dan, the owners of Eminem Games. So how are you guys doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Cheers.
Yeah, awesome. So
Doing really well.
So tell us a bit about this store then. Like, how did you guys actually start?
We opened it 4 years ago, myself and Dan. We just both had the sort of idea of creating the ultimate game shop for us. If that really, I think that's fair enough.
We wanted it to be somewhere that, we felt that we would be happy to go into as ourselves. Like if we went into a shop and it wasn't up to par with us, we could do better than that, and we did. So
had you been to other shops, retro shops?
Well, I mean, I've been going to game shops like my whole life. I mean, there's game shops, arcades, all sorts. I've been pretty much a gamer since I can remember. So whenever I go anywhere new, the first thing I look for is a gaming shop, and especially the independent style ones. Obviously, back then it wasn't really retro because I'm really old, but it was just like great older games. Yeah, like at the time it was current, and I love game shops, and I love the ambience, and I love the community that can build up around there. So we wanted to build somewhere that felt like home. It felt like home for gamers, and somewhere that everyone could come in like really. So why don't you tell them more about it?
Which is fair, a home with us basically. I think you hit the sort of nail on the head there really, and we're not arrogant about the games. If you don't know all the unlockable characters from Final Fantasy VII, we'll still like you.
Don't know what Final Fantasy VII is, to be honest.
Get the hell out!
Get out!
So one of the things that we find amazing is obviously the fact that you guys are still here. The fact that we've had so many different retro gaming shops that have kind of closed down over the years.
And London is such a big city, but there's hardly anything. It's amazing. And you guys are here, and it's great to have these stores because obviously you're not going to get this stuff in game. Game Station used to have their own little retro bit, but that's now gone. So was it hard for you to set the store up, or Did you have a lot? Do you have
I mean, if you do look on our Facebook page and
Facebook page, I've looked at it.
That's
4 years ago, there is a couple of pictures of the
Eminem Games
shop.
Croydon on Facebook. There, you can see them.
And they looked young and virile in those pictures. You still do, guys.
Well, you know, I've got a couple of grey hairs.
Oh,
But,
they're
you
women,
know,
you know. So,
there you go.
Times have changed.
Yeah.
But we've certainly got a lot more stock than day one. I think I
Definitely.
can say probably 20 times more stock.
And I really say, yeah,
day
it's
one.
really like thanks as well to like our fantastic community. We've got a great community of gamers here. We've got a lot of people who come down to the store as well from all over to check us out and check out our stock and everything. Got loads of great fans on YouTube and such.
We're on YouTube now.
Yeah,
YouTube!
That we really do appreciate, and it's thanks to them that we're still here and we're striving to be better every day for you, the fans and the customers.
And you guys have actually had people come from like different countries to the
We
store.
had, one guy, he came all the way. I think he was here on holiday anyway from Serbia.
No, he was here because he wanted to come to the store.
I think he wants to see Stuart actually.
Yeah. Well,
Understandable, but I imagine he had another reason to come here, and this was sort of tagged on. But he certainly had a good time.
he
in
made
the
a point
shop.
of coming here though.
He certainly did.
Yeah. We've had people from Denmark.
Denmark, yeah, a lot of people
Sweden.
actually from Denmark.
Yeah, same Danes. They love
They loved that.
the
Them
retro
games.
and the gaming. But Sweden as well. We've had from all over really, and it's been great. We also sell online, and we sold online to all over. We sold to Brazil, sold to America, of course all over Europe. It's been
I do mail order as well.
What's the kind of consoles that really kind of hit home for you guys? What's the kind of
I mean,
what
I
was your
grew
most
up.
passionate one growing up with?
I grew up playing the Amiga 500, and I
Okay.
think that's what the sort of difference between myself and Dan.
It was a big format in this country in the late
and that's
80s,
why
90s.
I really enjoyed it because
Yeah, I had Amiga.
all my friends had them, and I personally thought it had better graphics than the Mega Drive, and
Definitely a better sound.
yeah,
The bleepiness of the Mega Drive is like, oh my god.
no doubt about that. And let's just say I used to have lots of discs with games on that probably didn't come sort of the most legal
There's different
routes.
things on discs these days.
Yeah, so I just had, that's what I enjoyed my Amiga 500.
Quite grainy on the 500, wasn't it? Yeah.
600, I had the 600 as well.
You had the lot. You
And
had
I-
CD32. Alright, no, that'd be outrageous.
No,
Get out.
I do know someone who's got a CD30.
Yeah, I heard legends that there was an owner of a CD32. Once.
Malcolm,
Yeah.
CD32.
I actually had one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, there you go. Here's your
something
man
already.
with a CD32.
Wow.
Malcolm's our cameraman.
Have a look, Malcolm, please. Say hello, say hello.
Oh, that shirt! That shirt! Off camera, that shirt!
The shirt's barely legal! YouTube's got a filter for those shirts, so don't worry, it will come across like magenta or something. So Dan, what about you? Not an Amiga fan, but...
No, actually, in terms of Amiga and Atari, I actually had an Atari, which I
ST?
Yeah, Atari ST.
Oh right, yeah, I
500.
wonder what the ST is. That must be some kind of console.
Oh, right, yeah, the t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for me personally, I'm actually more about Japanese games. I loved a lot of console-ized games.
Wasn't there a game on the NES in Japan called Bastard?
Yeah, it's actually based on a manga. It's a fantasy story. It's because it's based on a bastard sword. It's not like an actual guy. Well, actually, no, the main character is also a bastard. But the point is, it's
There was the Bastard Saga, obviously, you went through several games.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I was really into like that kind of stuff. My cousins were like heavily into
Bastards.
anime and manga and bastards, and they got me into like Japanese gaming. They were actually like very heavy into that kind of scene.
You imported games over back in the day?
Yeah. Well, they did. I just got to play their stuff.
Oh, nice.
But I did eventually get my hands on a Game Boy, and that's my favourite machine ever. As you see, I love the Game Boy. Big collector, like everything through from the Game Boy.
All versions.
Game Boy, Game Boy SP, Game Boy Light, as many as I can get my hands on. Massive fan of the Game Boy, and to a small extent, the DS and the DSi and the 3DS as well. But the original Game Boy is where it's at for me.
Stroking, man. I really like that. Yeah. I'm going to have a video of stroking Game Boys
I'm not
later
gonna
on.
do that.
Yeah. But do you have like a future like vision of how this store what it could become? Do you want it to get
I think
bigger or?
we want it to get bigger,
Yeah.
I don't want to say, but watch this space, we want it to become a bigger, better shop.
We'll tell it to all kind of facets of gamers and geekdom as well.
That's a good point. We do Magic the Gathering
Yeah.
and trading
tournaments,
cards.
Trading
so-
cards, tournaments.
I know it's not quite sort of
Gaming.
retro, but there are certainly some
Cards
old
are very retro.
Well, we
Did
also
Nintendo
do
start
like
making
gaming
cards?
tournaments as well. Like we did Street Fighter tournament a little while ago.
Yeah, that was
the
good fun.
original Street Fighter 2 tournament. We did Mario Kart.
You had the
Well
UK
done.
champion come to the
He-
Sunday.
He's the world champion.
He's the world champion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's the world
Oh,
champion of Mario Kart. Super Mario Kart.
Yeah, he's got. I think it's about 7 or 8 tracks on the game that he's actually got the world record on.
Yeah, he
for
is
the best time on the PAL version.
crazy good.
Wow.
He came down and he allowed people to get a lap on him.
No, a lap and a half.
A lap and a half, and he still thrashed.
You didn't get
Stuart.
purple shelled at any stage?
Uh,
Surely if you're that far ahead.
is there a purple shell in Super Street Fighter? Super Mario Kart?
Oh, the original on the SNES. Oh
wasn't
my
it?
god, I
Red-
referred
red
to a
shell.
modern
Red
game.
and green.
There you go.
No, I can say it's in the GameCube version.
Blue shells.
Blue shells.
Yeah, it's-
Looks purple.
You
Maybe
need
it's
to,
PAL
you need
colour
to
or
adjust the
something.
contrast on your
I do,
TV,
don't
that's
I?
what
Yeah.
it is.
Always adjust the contrast. You could use Mario Kart as a barometer for the contrast on your telly.
But we're very
Shell
much
is
about
blood
like, you know,
purple.
the games and the gamers, you know, and everything between. Really, we're really much about pushing that kind of stuff because we feel that it's not just about like, you know, buy games and go. It's about the community that's built up around gaming as well, and that's why you're watching us, and that's why we're all doing this, I guess.
And I think it's fair to say that a lot of our customers have almost sort of become our friends, and I.
Not mine. I don't like it that much, but you know,
Well, they have become mine.
yes.
And you know, I enjoy the company and I enjoy spending time.
I'm kidding. We love you guys. You know, it's fine.
They've become part of them.
I just wish maybe we got some more female customers. That's probably.
Some of the leaders. I mean, some late female gamers. I mean, sorry, yeah.
It's fine,
Female
it's
gamers
fine.
in the shop.
Well, you know, they play games. I mean, Candy Crush. The Sims.
Harvest Moon.
Harvest
yeah.
Moon, yes, good game.
Yeah. What other games the females?
Let's move on, shall we?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all the stock that you guys actually have right at the moment, what are you actually most proud of?
Well, I'm most proud of. I mean, yesterday we got a great trade-in of loads of the Mega Man X games on
and
the
the original
PlayStation,
as well.
and it goes to show that now we've got hopefully such a good reputation that we're getting collectors coming here and dropping some absolutely amazing collections into the shop, and we've got the Mega Man Legends games in there, Vagrant Story, the Final Fantasies, and these seem to be games that we've always got in stock, constantly coming in and going out.
The original one, Parasite Eve, some lovely stuff in there.
Yeah, some really good bits and pieces that we've got in at the moment.
And how about hardware? Like what kind of console or...
Right now, I'm really quite pleased with the Turbo Graphics we've got in stock. Lots of games. We've actually got a PAL modded Turbo Graphics, which is you know, it's been done, so it's like you don't find them out too often.
Right.
They're lovely machines as well. Bombman's fantastic on Turbo Graphics. Yeah, that's my personal favourite. Obviously Game Boys, but you know.
Really underrated, actually. Right, so I've actually got one kind of obscure question, because you know it's not a game you see very often. But guys, do you have any copies of FIFA at all? Like any year it came, whatever year?
Really, Trev? Really?
Sorry. Right guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a little tour of the store, and we're going to kind of go through each cabinet, and we're going to look at pull out some games that we have really good memories of and want to talk about. Let's do it.
Yep. So to begin with, we're looking at PlayStation. So the original PlayStation, of course, was Sony's revenge against Nintendo when Nintendo dropped them for their CD add-on. So we've got the original PlayStation and also the PS1, which is the mini version, which you could also get a screen attachment for it.
Yeah, it like screwed on the back, and it kind of almost like made it like a laptop, but it was actually very cool. It's a really good accessory if you don't want to hog the TV while playing your PS1.
Although this is still the classic for it. But the thing with the PlayStation is it's kind of the cut-off point for retro at the moment, I think.
It depends. I mean, I think sort of PS2, GameCube, Xboxy time, but yeah, there are some people that think the cut-off point is like NES and anything newer than that, but yeah, it is one of the newer consoles that are here, so yeah. As you can see,
it's quite the hefty
got
collection.
a lot of PS1 games, but here's one that's quite hard to get. It's Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. So there's lots of these Capcom fighter games where it's the Street Fighter characters versus, you know, it could be X-Men, this one is just Marvel in general. What makes the PS1 version unique? It was released on like the Sega Saturn as well, and it's actually a lot better. And this one kind of gets a bad rep because it's missing some frames, and you know, basically because the PlayStation 1 didn't have as much RAM as the Saturn. The Saturn also had an accessory to give you an arcade perfect version of this game. It was originally in the arcade. The PS1 doesn't look as good, but I think it still plays really well, and I kind of admire the job they did with it, considering the limitations of the PS1 when it came to 2D fighters. But yeah, I mean, it's just your typical Capcom fighting game. It's the Street Fighter characters, Ken, Ryu, the usual crew, against Marvel superheroes. So you got Hulk, Spider-Man. It was the game that came out before Marvel vs. Capcom. So I guess Marvel vs. Capcom is Marvel superheroes versus Street Fighter 2. That's my choice, and of course that is available at Eminem Games. So check that out if you're into Capcom fighters. So here's Dan.
Hi guys, going back to my love of Japanese gaming, I picked out Xenogears. Xenogears was Square's, they were riding high at the time, back when they were still Squaresoft, before they joined up with Enix, and they put this one out because they were really riding high on top of the cinematic kind of RPG kind of thing going on. This one, very heavily anime based, more so than in Final Fantasies really. Giant robots, incomprehensible plot, and a fantastic battle system actually. It was more of a kind of a real-time battle system, not just like you select punch and you punch them, but you actually had to put in like actual
So it wasn't like you hit someone, you wait for them to hit you?
No, it was actually like almost like a Street Fighter style like setup of moves. Each character had like their own set of moves, and then like, the giant robots they got into also had certain moves as well. The PS1 was fantastic for RPGs as well. It was really the vanguard. I'd say arguably more so than the SNES.
They got a deal, didn't they, Squaresoft with Sony, like an exclusive deal I think for a few years. Eventually Square started making GameCube games and for other systems, but for a few years Sony basically just had all the exclusive games.
Arguably it's really thanks to Sony that Square like had their heyday at all. I mean Final Fantasy 7 through 9 up to 10 as well on PS2 like are still to this day like heavily sought after. Fantastic games, you can still go back and play them very nicely and very easily. But for me personally, this and Parasite Eve are two of my very favourite PS1 games.
An interesting fact about this cabinet, what is it?
Yeah, interesting fact about this cabinet is that I actually got this cabinet on my birthday because I don't take days off. So I got this cabinet and cut my hand open.
Wow.
There you go.
A bit of Mortal Kombat thrown in at the end there for you. Real life Mortal Kombat.
If you buy a game, you can still smell the blood.
And it's made of glass.
Cabinet.
Hi guys, so now we're going to look at the Sega cabinet.
My favourite cabinet.
My second favourite cabinet, I think. My second favourite cabinet. Most modern first is the Sega Dreamcast. And that came out in 1999 in the UK. Going down a little bit back in time, we've got the Sega Mega Drive shelf with loads of loose cartridges, and that came out in the UK in 1990. Next shelf down, we also go forward in time, but also back in time. So the Sega Master System, which I'm assuming came out before the Mega Drive.
It did indeed.
Any update on the date?
1987.
1987.
Yeah.
And what was it called in Japan?
The Sega Mark III.
That's
But
correct.
it did actually get re-released as the Master System. When after we got it, after we got the Master System.
And actually the Japanese one had an FM chip in there,
yes.
so it had much better sound.
And there's the better sound is even in the PAL games, and you can solder in an FM chip, but I wouldn't recommend that because that would, I was going to say it would void your warranty, but that's probably gone by
I don't
now.
think you have to worry about that.
You'll be at least a couple of years out now.
But all consoles from Eminem Games do have a 3-month warranty. There's a plug. And so then we got the Sega Saturn, which came out in 1994
In Japan,
and 95
in the UK,
in the UK.
UK and Ireland.
Okay, and on the
Northern
bottom
Ireland.
shelf we've got disc CD based Sega games.
Of the CD variety.
Of the CD variety, Mega CD games, we've got Sega Saturn games, Japanese Sega Saturn games, we've also got Pro Golf.
Which is not CD based.
No.
Sort of unit with a screen based.
The very first, it's the second console I ever had, but the very first one, Sega one that I used was the Master System. Now my friends had this original model, and it even has built-in games that are hidden, so if you hold down the right key combination on the control pad, you get like a maze game and stuff, so it's really good. It also supported cards as well, so little cards you'd insert for games. But they then released the Master System 2, which is just a cut-down version as well. The cartridges ended up, they're a little bit frustrating at times nowadays because there's no end label. They didn't do end labels back then. But we've got California Games here, for example. This was quite a big classic where you'd have surfing and all sorts of other stuff on there. But they'd also bring out games at the same time as the Mega Drive. So you'd have Spider-Man, for example. Spider-Man on the Mega Drive, you can climb on the ceiling. Master System, not so much.
Mortal Kombat
So yeah,
came out on everything.
Yeah.
And there's a Master System game.
absolutely. And so you ended up with kind of like the cheap versions. Now the thing is, I was always a console behind. So for me, Master System was what I was playing whilst everybody was on Mega Drive. And then as everybody moved on from there, that's when I got onto Mega Drive. So that was
We'll
really
edit,
cool.
we'll edit in a violin when he was talking about how impoverished he was. Hashtag first world problems.
I know.
Okay, well I'll talk about my game for the Mega Drive. It's Megalomania. Maybe it's a little bit of it's not really a Sega game, to be honest, because I really love playing this on the Amiga, which I talked about earlier on. And it's absolutely brilliant game because you could sort of build up your fortresses on your screen and send them into the next screen and take over. And it was just a great concept, and made by sensible software that of course made sensible soccer, made cannon fodder, and sensible golf. Maybe wasn't quite as good as the others, but
Sensible Golf was great. I actually only played a demo that came with Amiga format, so
it was all right. But this was a real gem for me that I absolutely love playing on the Amiga, and I would recommend it as well for the Mega Drive. Obviously, you got to use the pad rather than the mouse.
The cover as well was always one of those ones which was so striking back then as well. I mean, it's very reminiscent of the 90s as well, let's face it.
So I want to pick out a game from the Sega cabinet as well. It's one of my personal favourite Sega games ever. It's Shenmue. It's kind of polarizes opinion because some people find it really boring, other people love it like I do. I find it very entertaining to sort of walk around your own house and open and close drawers and take cassette tapes out and stuff like that. Some people would think that's boring. I don't really understand why. But it's kind of a genre onto itself. You basically live the life of this guy called Rio on the front here, and his father was murdered, and you have to find out who murdered your father, and you kind of want to get revenge. And you do it in kind of an RPG environment, although it's not quite. It's like a mix between Grand Theft Auto and an RPG in a weird way. You have to go around, there's a very realistic town that you live in. You go through each day, you live a whole 24 hours each day, you get up, you go into town, you can go into an arcade and play games, you can buy food from the food store, you can chat to all the characters that are walking around in this environment. There's real weather, it rains, it snows, depending on what month it is. And it's just amazing how realistic that they made it. It was also the most expensive game ever made at the time. I'm not sure if it still is, it cost like $50 million to make. Probably part of the reason why Sega kind of went a bit downhill. There was also a sequel, Shenmue 2, which we also have buried in there somewhere. That was one of the final Dreamcast games to come out. In fact, where is it? I'm blocking it with my head.
There we go.
There we go. Look at that. Double Shenmue.
I'm gonna go play this now, thank you.
Yep, I was getting Shenmued from both sides there. And this also came out on the Xbox, but I actually prefer the Dreamcast version.
What year did it come out?
The Dreamcast version?
The Dreamcast version of the first game.
2000.
Right.
Christmas 2000. I remember because I got it for Christmas. It came out in 1999 in Japan, but they had to put this really bad voiceover dialogue over the top of it. That's why we got it a year later. But this only came out in Japan and Europe. So Americans, I'm sure there's loads of you watching. Thank you for watching. This is the one you want to get, really. I know you guys don't really like the Dreamcast Power boxes because it had to have a big, huge booklet with instructions for the different languages. But it's got the Japanese dialogue. There was no English dialogue recorded by this time. The Xbox version, which came out a couple of years later, does have English dialogue recorded. So Shenmue, Dreamcast 1 and 2. I really recommend giving them a play because they're really awesome games.
I'm gonna go play this one too. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, wait.
Okay guys, so now we're on to our second cabinet, and this is really full of portables. So we've got the Game Boy, we've got DS's, we've got Game & Watches, we've got box Game Boy games, we've got Neo Geo Pocket games, we've got Game Gear games, and then we've even got a grandstand with a rather realistic looking gun, and we've got some rather awesome looking Super Famicom games boxed. But my little square of joy
Cartridge.
is DuckTales Woohoo.
Wait, that was the theme tune, wasn't it?
Yeah, DuckTales.
Theme tune reference.
Woohoo.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah, that's how it went.
I'm going to sing it, but yeah. Look it up.
So you were Scrooge McDuck, and because it was made by Capcom, you could choose the level you started on. I think that's why I liked it, 'cause it always
Kind of
gave
like
you
Mega Man.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of variety. So if you were kind of not very good at one level, you could actually have fun playing the other levels. And I remember this was one of the first games I actually completed back in the day.
Connoisseur. Is it like the NES version?
It is very much
Yeah.
like the NES version, which I've just recently got actually, and it's a
It's like a colour version, the NES version of
bit
it.
harder though on the NES.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
well,
choose levels?
yes, but I'm not as good as
Yeah.
I used to be.
Okay.
So, what's your little bundle of joy you
Well,
picked up?
Mine is a bit of a weird one because it's not really thought of as a good Mario game, but it's Super Mario Land 2. And I've chosen this as opposed to the first game, which most people associate with the Game Boy.
You should have chosen the first game. You've made a.
I like the
schoolboy
first
error.
game. I like the first game, but it kind of came out as a weird time. It came out in, I think, in 1989 when the Game Boy came out. But even though by that time you had Mario 3, and at least in Japan you had Mario 3, and that kind of had amazing sort of graphics for the NES at the time, Mario Land kind of was more like Mario Bros. 1.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bit of a step backwards, and it had some weird stuff, like you didn't have a fireball, you had like a ball that you
Sort of
fired
bounced
and
along,
it
didn't it?
bounced,
Yeah.
yeah, and you could collect, well that was good, you could collect coins, which is quite good. But I prefer this because it's more like Super Mario Bros 3, more like Mario World. It's actually my favourite Mario game. It's actually very easy because you can save your position, so when you complete a level it'll automatically save to the battery backed RAM inside here. There's also a few power-ups that I don't think have ever appeared in any other Mario game. Mainly the rabbit ears, which are basically is kind of like the raccoon tail. You kind of jump higher, and when you're floating in the air, you wiggle your ears to give yourself a nice long landing. And there's a space level, and I don't think there's a Mario game that has a space level. Any other Mario game, or well, Mario Galaxy
Mario Galaxy. That's
is entirely based in space.
in space.
But pre sort of Wii, there wasn't really anything. So yeah, Super Mario Land 2, really wicked game.
They also did a camera and a printer. So, which is a really weird concept back then, you know, the fact you just have a camera for a flipping Game Boy and you could take pictures and then just print them off, have different borders and stuff. Actually pretty neat, but just one of those remarkable gems that Nintendo came up with that nobody saw coming.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Al. Thank you for that. So, do you want to go back down there?
Okay.
Down.
Hi guys, so now we're going to look at the Nintendo cabinet. So we start off here with a mountain of Super Nintendos. Various different degrees of yellowness on there.
You could actually say they're special yellow editions of the SNES.
Basically, yeah, that one's not that yellow, but that one's...
Pikachu edition, their Pikachu edition. Oh shit, he wasn't even around then, was he? Okay, they're just yellow, yeah.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
They're Pac-Man.
Donkey
edition.
Kong theme.
A box one as well. Looking up there, we've got a box one. So moving down to the next shelf, and this is the shelf I like to call the Super Nintendo shelf.
Why is that?
Just covering Super Nintendo games, basically.
Alright. It's a good name actually, it's quite
Yeah.
descriptive of the content.
Exactly there, so you've got a load of great games.
But not only just the European, like British ones, there's also the American style as well.
Which I think are ugly.
And just so you know it's the American style, some little kid's written USA on there.
Yeah.
Just in case he makes the mistake of trying to put that into his PAL machine.
Really emphasises it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it won't fit. But the next shelf down is the N64 shelf. So we've got classics there like Human Grand Prix, FIFA.
Human Grand Prix is where you're riding humans in some kind of depraved race opposed to cars.
I think
That
it's
one
an
would be
F1
Trev's
simulator.
favourite, that one.
On this shelf, nice selection of Japanese Super Famicom games. So they look like Super Nintendo games, but they are just for the Japanese Famicom. With a nice emphasis on the Japanese language as well.
Because the Famicom looked like our version of the Super Nintendo anyway.
Exactly. So next shelf down, we got loads of N64 games loose, including my favourite, Mario Kart 64. I believe this is the best version of Mario Kart. I have so many great memories of it, sort of playing 4-player, what was it, battle mode with all the balloons. I love that. I would just play that for hours.
Who would you always select to play?
I was never Bowser, because he had, I would always crash, so I couldn't go that fast. I would never be the little guys, because they... Toad, yeah, Toad or the other one.
Yoshi.
No, he was a middle.
He was
He
good
was
at
a middle
cornering.
range. He was a middle of the range guy.
Yeah.
So I would always play as Mario and Luigi because they had a mixture of fast and good acceleration. So that's who I would always choose. My favourite track was
Sherbet Land.
No,
Rainbow
The farm one. No,
Oh, yeah,
Rainbow is too hard.
Moo Farm.
Moo Moo Farm.
Great soundtrack as well.
Yeah, I can't sing it or something like
There's
that.
no lyrics to it, so you could like hum the like yeah.
What have you got there?
I've actually got one of the original Nintendo games now. This is one of the light gun games, which is absolutely fantastic. Wild Gunman. Now, Back to the Future fans may also recognise the name because it's the game that was featured in Back to the Future 2.
Cafe
Yeah.
80s.
So it's basically the point where you've got Elijah Wood and some other kid, and they're just kind of like, you mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy. This is the baby's toy. There is a difference between this version and the cabinet version you see in the movie, in that you only have one guy that you're shooting in this, whereas in the movie there's 3 of them that Marty shoots. There's also a section where you have a house and you have all these bad guys all popping up in the windows and you get to shoot those. But of all the light gun games, this is one of my favourites, in fairness, in part to do with the nostalgia from Back to the Future, which is one of my favourite trilogies. So that is definitely my favourite choice for here.
Okay, so I'm going to pick a N64 game out of the sort of generation, the 32-bit / 64-bit generation. The N64 was actually the first one of them that I got, because it was kind of the first one to get less than £100, mainly because they were desperate to try and beat the PlayStation, which didn't really pan out as they would have liked. But I remember the game that I got with it, and this was like Christmas 1997. I think the N64 came out in 1997. Yeah. It was about a year later than Japan got it. Was International Superstar Soccer 64. So it started off on the NES, this series, as Konami Hyper Soccer. It was a really good football game even then. It emphasised like passing the ball around as opposed to just like running up the field and hoofing it up. More like Barcelona are these days, whereas the other football games are like more like Charlton Athletic.
Was it top down or was it?
It was top down.
Yep.
And then that evolved into International Superstar Soccer on the SNES, which is also Eminem Games. And that became like a side-on TV kind of view, and that was a fantastic game as well. Probably about the best football game you could get after Sensible Soccer on consoles. And then it evolved into 3D. A lot of the football games of the era kind of struggled a little bit to go 3D, like FIFA 64 is a horrendous game. FIFA 97, some of the early FIFAs are really bad in 3D, but ISS 64 was absolutely perfect from the start. It was light years ahead of FIFA at the time. It played very similarly to the old Super Nintendo International Superstar Soccer. That was one of the best things about it. It seamlessly, the gameplay transitioned across, and it was just great. You had tons of international teams, loads of tournaments. There's a World League mode where you go through a big long season playing all the other international teams. It had tons of animation, quite hilarious commentary. It's England versus Wales, and it didn't really sound very realistic, but hey, there wasn't much memory in cartridges in those days. It carried on. There was ISS 98, which is actually probably a bit better than this one, and that became Pro Evolution Soccer that we have now, which is still kind of competing with FIFA. But yeah, that's my choice for the N64.
Now the thing for me is, I've never really been into soccer. I've never been into the sport or games, but when I was always forced to play them with people, I always tried to see, because I was just one of those guys, I tried to see how much I could foul people. What is this like for actually fouling people? Like, is there a lot of violence?
There is actually a foul button, so if you just want to like get sent off, or you're winning at 10-0 and you just want to have a bit of a laugh, you can kind of literally like barge someone over or completely hack them.
So that's basically the only button I'm going to be pressing if I'm playing this with you.
Yeah, you probably lose though, because you get loads of men sent off.
I don't care. For me, my target is going to be how many can I get sent off.
Thanks for your
If I can get the entire team sent off,
I'll leave it.
Great.
Stop.
So,
yeah.
Is there a limit as to how
Al
many
doesn't
can
play
get sent
football
off?
game.
I don't. It's no.
Yeah.
Let's put that.
Go and play Back to the Future game, Gunman, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Is there a sequel to Wild Gunman, by the way, Al? Come back. Do you think it might be called Tamed Gunman? See what I did there?
Shut up, Trev.
So thanks for watching, guys. So that was our very first episode of Console Shop. We hope you enjoyed the little tour of the store, chat with Dan and Stu, and maybe you've learned a few new things about some of the games that are here.
And going forward, we're going to be looking at specific platforms, we're going to be looking at specific games and just delving in a bit more so that we can all just reminisce about all that awesome stuff.
Please comment and share the video. Please check out Eminem Games' other videos. We're also going to have the video on our channel, and also future videos will be released on there. Man, I've said video quite a lot of times. Thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you very soon. Ciao. I just had an orgasm.